Wedding dress wasn't just a garment. It was a legacy. A beautifully crafted satin A-line with intricate lace details and a delicate pearl trim. It was the same dress my grandmother had worn on her wedding day, and my mother on hers. It smelled faintly of lavender and old photographs, a comforting scent that reminded me of a love that had stood the test of time. When my grandmother passed it down to me, she told me, "This dress has a story, Jessica. It has seen two great loves, and it's ready for a third." I, in turn, told my husband Ryan that I was going to wear it on our wedding day. My name is Jessica, and I had no idea that my family's legacy was about to be stolen from me. For months, my mother-in-law, Mrs. Miller, had been acting strangely. She would drop by unannounced, always with an air of entitlement, and always with a subtle disdain for my old-fashioned ways. She would talk about my dress as if it were a burden, a problem to be solved. "You know, Jessica," she would say, her voice dripping with a condescending sweetness, "that old dress is a lot of work. The fabric is so old and worn out. Maybe you should just buy a new one and get rid of the headache." I would always brush her off, assuring her that the dress was not a burden, but a family legacy. But she wouldn't let it go. She started bringing her friends over to look at the dress, talking about how beautiful it would be if it were modernized and upgraded. She had a vision, a dream, a plan for my dress, and I was not a part of it. She started to call it our family's new legacy, talking about how her daughter, Rebecca, would inherit it one day. It was as if my ownership of the dress, my family's history, and my memories were all an inconvenience. One afternoon, I came home from work, filled with a sense of nervous excitement. My wedding was just a few weeks away, and I had a final fitting scheduled for the dress. I walked into the living room, my heart pounding in my chest, and opened the garment bag. But the garment bag was empty. The beautiful satin A-line with its intricate lace details and a delicate pearl trim was gone. The smell of lavender and old photographs was gone. The only thing left was the faint scent of my mother-in-law's perfume, a cruel reminder of her presence in my home. I felt a cold wave of fear and betrayal wash over me. My hands trembled as I fumbled with my phone, my mind racing to a single, terrifying thought. My mother-in-law. I dialed her number, and she answered on the first ring, her voice full of a triumphant glee. "I have a surprise for you, dear," she said, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. "I have a gift that will make your wedding day perfect." I looked at the empty garment bag in my hands, and I knew what she had done. My family's legacy, my grandmother's sacred trust, was about to be stolen from me. A cold wave of fear and betrayal washed over me, leaving me trembling. The smell of my mother-in-law's perfume, a cruel reminder of her presence in my home. My mind was racing, a whirlwind of disbelief and denial. It couldn't be true. She couldn't have. Not my grandmother's dress. Just then my husband, Ryan, walked in, his face a picture of nonchalant calm. "Hey babe, what's wrong? You look upset." Before I could answer, a familiar saccharine voice called from the doorway. "Oh, darling, I have a surprise for you. It's a gift that will make your wedding day perfect." Mrs. Miller, my mother-in-law, swept into the room, her eyes twinkling with a cold, triumphant glee. Behind her stood my sister-in-law, Rebecca, a sly smile on her face as she clutched a large, heavy garment bag, one that looked just like mine. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked from the garment bag in Rebecca's hand to the empty one in mine. A sickening feeling of dread settled in my stomach. "Where is it, Mrs. Miller?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Where is my dress?" Mrs. Miller's smile widened. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try to hide it. "Oh, darling, it's right here. It's beautiful, isn't it? My daughter Rebecca has been looking for a dress for her wedding day, and I knew this one would be perfect for her. After all, it's a family legacy, isn't it? It belongs in our family now." My blood ran cold. "It's not a family legacy, Mrs. Miller," I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "It's my family's legacy. It was my grandmother's dress. And my mother's. It was meant for me," Mrs. Miller scoffed, her eyes full of a condescending superiority. "Don't be so dramatic, Jessica. That old dress is so outdated." The fabric is so old and worn out, it's not a dress for a modern woman like you. Rebecca, on the other hand, is getting married to a respectable man. She needs a dress that will make her look like a queen. This one is perfect for her. My gaze darted to Ryan, who was standing in the corner, his face a mix of embarrassment and helplessness. This was his chance to stand up for me, to defend me. "Ryan, did you know about this?" I asked, my voice cracking with a mixture of fear and betrayal. "Did you know your mother took my dress and was going to give it to your sister?" Ryan's expression was a mixture of embarrassment and helplessness. He mumbled something under his breath, a weak attempt to calm the situation. "Jessica, calm down, it's just a dress. My mother means well. She just wants to help us out. We can always get a new one, a better one." His words were a punch to the gut. He wasn't standing up for me, he was standing by and watching his mother and sister steal a piece of my family's history, and he was siding with them. His betrayal was a physical ache in my chest, a cold, sharp pain that made it hard to breathe. I was not a wife. I was a rival. I was a third wheel in my own marriage, a problem to be handled. A quiet, cold rage settled over me. There was no point in arguing with them. They were a unified front, a team of two, and they were utterly without shame or remorse. My tears had dried and my fear had vanished. It was time to stop being a victim and start being a lesson. They wanted my dress? Fine. But they were going to get a lesson they would never forget. A quiet, cold rage settled over me, a force far more powerful than the tears or anger that had threatened to overwhelm me. My hands, which had been trembling moments before, were now steady as I looked at my mother-in-law's triumphant face and my husband's cowardly passivity. They thought they had won. They thought they had stolen my family's legacy and that I would just silently accept their cruelty. But they were wrong. "You're right, Mrs. Miller," I said, my voice low and steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. "That dress is old-fashioned, and it's not a dress for a modern woman like me." I looked at Ryan, my eyes locking with his. "You're right, Ryan, we can always get a new one, a better one." I turned and walked out of the house, leaving them standing there in stunned silence, their triumphant smiles slowly dissolving into a mask of confusion. I didn't go back to work. I didn't go to a friend's house. I went to a small private art studio I had rented a few months ago for my hobby. A quiet place where I could think and create. I pulled out my laptop and began to do my research. I wasn't just going to get a new dress. I was going to get justice. And it was going to be public, humiliating, and beautiful. My first step was to find a new dress, but not just any dress. I had a vision. I found a small local designer who specialized in vintage-inspired gowns. I sent him the photos of my grandmother's dress and asked him to create a replica, but with a twist. I wanted the same intricate lace and delicate pearl trim, but I wanted it in a deep, vibrant crimson, a color that would symbolize my new beginning, a color that would make me stand out in a crowd. My second step was to find out where my mother-in-law was planning to showcase her gift. I knew she was a show-off. She had been bragging about how Rebecca was going to wear a family heirloom to a major bridal expo, an event that would be filled with hundreds of people, local journalists, and social media influencers. It was the perfect stage for my revenge. My final step was to contact a lawyer. I had a lawyer on retainer, a brilliant woman named Miss Carter who specialized in family law. I explained everything to her, from the initial discovery to their casual admission of theft and my husband's passivity. She listened patiently, her voice devoid of emotion as she took down the details. "The dress is more than just a dress, Jessica. It's a family heirloom. It's a piece of history. And they stole it. We can sue for damages, for the emotional distress, and for the psychological torment they've caused you. But I have a feeling you have a different plan in mind." I smiled. "I do, Miss Carter. I want to make sure everyone knows what they did. I want to make sure that they are humiliated in front of everyone they tried to impress." The plan was set in motion. The designer began working on my dress, the lawyer began gathering the documents, and I began to prepare for my public debut. Ryan tried to call me, but I didn't answer. He tried to text me, but I didn't respond. His pathetic apologies and desperate pleas were too little, too late. He had his chance to defend me, and he chose his mother. Now he was going to face the consequences. The atmosphere at the bridal expo was a whirlwind of glitter and dreams. The convention center was a maze of floral arrangements, champagne fountains, and brides-to-be, their eyes wide with a mixture of hope and excitement. This was the perfect stage for my mother-in-law's grand performance, the grand reveal of her family's new legacy. I arrived in a sleek black dress, the garment bag containing my new crimson gown clutched in my hands. The moment I walked in, I saw them. Mrs. Miller was standing in the center of the exhibit, a triumphant look on her face as she gestured proudly to Rebecca. Rebecca, in turn, was standing on a small platform, a radiant smile on her face as she twirled in a wedding dress. My wedding dress. The same lace, the same pearl trim, the same delicate details that had been my grandmother's and my mother's. A crowd had gathered around them, a small group of reporters with their cameras and microphones. Mrs. Miller was in her element, her voice a confident, saccharine sound. "My daughter Rebecca is wearing a family heirloom," she announced proudly. "A dress passed down through generations, a symbol of our family's legacy." She was a master of manipulation, a brilliant actress, and she was putting on a show for everyone. I walked toward them, my heart pounding in my chest, a calm, unwavering sense of purpose guiding my steps. I held my head high, a small, knowing smile on my face. Mrs. Miller saw me first. Her smile faltered, her eyes widening in confusion. She wasn't expecting me. She was expecting me to be home, crying, defeated. "Jessica," she whispered, her voice a low, panicked hiss. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I just walked past her and stood in the center of the crowd, facing the reporters. The cameras and microphones turned to me, their lenses and sound recorders trained on me. A reporter, a young woman with a kind face, looked at me with curiosity. "Ma'am, are you a bride-to-be?" I smiled, a genuine, confident smile. "I am," I said, my voice clear and strong. "And I'm here to tell you a story. A story about a family's legacy that was almost stolen." I opened my garment bag, revealing my new crimson gown. The color was a stark contrast to the white dress Rebecca was wearing. It was a beautiful, powerful symbol of my new beginning. Mrs. Miller gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her face a mask of shock and horror. She wasn't expecting this. She was expecting me to be home, crying, defeated. "This is the dress I'm wearing on my wedding day," I said, my voice unwavering. "It's an exact replica of my grandmother's dress, but in a color that symbolizes my new beginning. You see, the original dress was stolen. It was stolen by my mother-in-law, Mrs. Miller, who is standing right behind me. She took it from my home and gave it to my sister-in-law, Rebecca, claiming it was their family's legacy." The crowd gasped, their murmurs and whispers filling the air. The cameras flashed, the microphones were thrust toward me, and a reporter asked, "What about the dress she's wearing?" "That's my grandmother's dress," I said, my voice filled with a final, unwavering authority. "The one that was meant for me. The one that was a symbol of my family's history. But they chose to steal it. And now they're going to face the consequences." The beautiful white wedding dress, once a symbol of love and legacy, was now a symbol of their public disgrace. The crowd was a mob of angry, disgusted people, and the reporters were a pack of wolves, all hungry for the story. The triumphant smiles on Mrs. Miller and Rebecca's faces were gone, replaced by a mask of shame, anger, and utter defeat. They were surrounded, exposed, and humiliated in front of everyone they had tried to impress. The sound of camera shutters and a mob of reporters' angry voices was the last thing I heard as I walked away. My mother-in-law's and sister-in-law's triumphant faces had crumbled into a mask of shame and utter defeat. They were surrounded, exposed, and humiliated in front of everyone they had tried to impress. The beautiful white wedding dress, once a symbol of love and legacy, was now a symbol of their public disgrace. I watched from a distance as my husband Ryan finally made his way through the crowd, his face a mixture of shame and despair. He looked at me, his eyes filled with tears, and I saw a man who had finally understood his mistake. He wasn't just my husband. He was a boy caught between his mother's cruelty and his wife's dignity. He had his chance to stand up for me, and he chose his mother. Now he was going to face the consequences. He came to me, his shoulders slumped, his head bowed. "Jessica," he said, his voice a low, choked whisper, I am so sorry. I should have stood up for you. I should have never let my mother do this to you. I was a coward and I am so, so sorry. His words were a physical ache in my chest, a cold, sharp pain that made it hard to breathe. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse in his eyes, not just fear of getting caught. He was a broken man, a man who had finally seen the truth, and it had shattered him. The stolen dress was a test, a lesson in loyalty, and we both failed. But his reaction, his genuine shame, and his willingness to stand up to his mother was a glimmer of hope. Tash Atmata. Pause. Sex 0.05. The incident changed our relationship forever. It wasn't the end, but a painful, necessary beginning. We spent weeks talking, crying, and rebuilding our trust. He went to therapy. He confronted his mother. He told her that he would not stand for her behavior anymore, that if she wanted a relationship with him, she would have to respect me. For the first time, he chose me. As for my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, they were humiliated. Their reputation was in tatters, and their so-called friends and business partners cut ties with them. The beautiful wedding dress they stole, once a symbol of their greed, became a symbol of their downfall. They lost everything: their pride, their reputation, and their relationship with my husband. They thought they could get away with it, but they learned the hard way that there is always a price to pay for your actions. My wedding day was beautiful. I wore a custom-made crimson gown, a symbol of my new beginning, a symbol of my strength. It was a day of love and a day of justice. I am no longer a victim, and I am no longer afraid. My life is mine again, and I am free.